Hello, I'm Brad, and today I'm going to talk about light energy. Some of the knowledge that I've been getting is steering me towards the creation and how we're created. Now, there's a lot of biblical support behind this. Okay, I'm not going to be using the scriptures, but they are in there. Okay, it's not something that I'm just digging out of anywhere and giving you this information. This is biblical, and the problem is everybody's gotten so religious with this with the Bible that they can't get that religious out of it. They can't split them apart, and that's what I'm going to try to do today. Now I've preached a lot against the Bible, not so much the scriptures, okay, but the fact that the Bible can't lead you to the truth. It's impossible. It was never designed to do that. It's only a testimony by the people who wrote about their experience with the truth. So we're headed to the end of times right now, and it really won't make much difference if you understand these things or not. But I need to preach, and that's what I do. I preach the gospel, and I'm the last saint to exist on earth, and the only one since the early 4th century. That was the last time the saints did any preaching of the gospel. Since then, it was replaced by Christianity. Now, Christianity it was in place because of God's plans, but it's not of God. Now, if that makes any sense to you. God planned everything, good or evil. Doesn't make any difference what it is. He planned it all. And the only reason he had this age was to work with certain people, his saints, the prophets, and Jesus. He needed to reveal his knowledge. Now, I've covered a lot of that in the past videos, but I'll probably talk about it again today. I get to have longer videos now. YouTube said it's okay because I have a lot of videos, over 100, and so now I get to I could probably speak for an hour now on one video rather than split it up in 10 minutes. So I'm just going to ramble on until I'm tired. If that's okay with you. So whoever listens to this is going to learn a lot of things, and you probably won't understand it all, but don't worry about understanding it all. You don't have to put it all together. That's where I come in. Okay, you just pick up the things that you learn, and so anyway, and that's what the saints are for. We're here to preach the gospel and teach those who are interested in listening. If you're not a listener, you're not going to be listening to this video. So I'm not concerned about you people. You know, some of you are going to listen to it for a while, and then you're going to write complaints and, and tell me I'm a false prophet, and tell me all kinds of stuff. So, but I'm not concerned about you people. I know where you're going. You're going to the same place we're all headed to, and that's paradise. But I'm looking for a chosen one, actually, that will listen to the gospel that I preach, and until God reveals himself to you. Now, is that possible and get it in on time? That's up to God. My job is to preach the gospel. God doesn't give us those kinds of details ahead of time. That's why we don't know the end of time. If we knew the end of time, everybody would know it by now. There's a lot of people guessing. We got movies about it. We got people out there putting videos out and all kinds of advertising and stuff to promote themselves is what they're doing. They're promoting their idea, and that's not God's idea. That comes from that religious thought. Religious people, they're pagan worshippers is what they do. They worship their own ideas about who God might be and what his plans might be, without knowing who God is. And that's a pagan worshiper. It's not a terrible thing. It's just that you're deceived. And you're just those people that God wanted deceived. Yes, God did deceive everybody with the DNA in our cells. That DNA has traits in it that cause us to deceive our thoughts in God. And I'm going to get to that now about this creation thing. And then hopefully you understand how we're made of, and why God did all these different things. So if you understand creation first, then you can start understanding other things. First of all, before anything exists, you need a plan. Now, there isn't one person on this earth that has been able to make something without planning it. It's just you can think about it, but it's not going to happen unless you make a plan and then get the energy to make it. It just won't happen. Nothing exists unless it has a plan. Okay, so and how do you get a plan? Well, you got to think about it. You have to think. And you think it into existence. You see it, you it's almost like you experience the thing in your mind, in your thoughts. Not in your brain. Your brain can't do. The brain is what processes our thoughts. So we get our thoughts, we process them into visual things and stuff like that, and then we make our plan. Well, God, He's the thoughts. He's the conscience. He's the brain behind all the plans. He's always existed. He's infinite. He's everywhere. There is no end to God. And it's all thoughts. It's all conscious. And that's where He made all His plans for what you see today. Okay, so He made His plans. Now what? There's no energy. There's no energy in God. There's no time, because nothing was created. There's no time. There's no mass. There's nothing in thoughts. You can't weigh them. They don't exist in the material world. So that's who God is. He's not some being up there in the sky somewhere. A lot of people think he's a man. He's a spiritual man floating around in the sky. No. He's just thoughts. His first creation was light energy. Okay, now science has gotten to the point, they understand that light energy is needed for everything to exist, because light is in all the atoms. They understand that. Science has brought a lot to us, but they still don't understand where it came from. Stephen Hawking is a famous astrophysicist and whatever you call him. He's written books. He's this guy that's in a wheelchair. He's got muscular dystrophy or some kind of disease, so he can't function at all except his brain and his mouth. And but in that brain, he's a very intelligent man, and he's come to the conclusion now that everything came from nothing. It used to be a big bang. There used to be a place in the universe where everything came from. Well, now he's saying everything came from nothing. Now that's brilliant. How brilliant is that? Well, I could have said that, because nothing happens unless you have a plan. A star cannot be made unless it's planned. It doesn't just happen. So you don't have to be really, really intelligent to figure that out. You got to, you just got to come from the right frame of mind, actually. And what kind of frame of mind is that? You need to come from God's point of view. You can't think it from the opposite way, because you get to that point and then you can't think anymore. And that's what happened with science. Now they got to this point. Now we're, everything came from nothing. Now what? Now what can they do? They have to believe there was some kind of intelligent designer. Now who's going to admit that? Which one of these scientists are going to admit that now there is an intelligent designer? There is a God. There is a plan. Who's going to admit that? After all these billions and trillions of dollars they've spent over the last 100 years in America, they're going to admit that now there's a God? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to try to figure out a way that they can get around that. So anyway, it's good that they got to this point, because now it means the knowledge that I have will make more sense. Because there was nothing there. There was no physical things there when God existed. And who knows how long He's existed? Well, it's for infinite, it's forever. So there's no end to Him. But eventually He got a plan together. And then He needed to create this light energy. Now it's not just the light you think. Turn on a light and that's light energy. The light energy is everything. It's all the energies put together. There's there's really actually no end to that energy. It's unbelievable how much there is just in that energy. If you look at the light spectrum, you will see many different, you'll see invisible. There's more invisible light than there is actual light that you can see. That's way beyond what we can understand. Now, scientists understand most of that, and they've experimented. I mean, it's all you can read in the books. It's all there. Now, I used to love science. I used to read about all this stuff, so I'm aware of it. But all the energies came from this light energy, and God created it. He had to create it because He was just thoughts with a plan. So that was His first creation. Now, we don't know the details of how He did that. Okay? Us saints, we don't get that yet. We will. Someday He'll teach us all about these things. But He doesn't have time to do that in this age. We're only here for a short little while, a few days. He doesn't have time to teach us all those intricate things on how He did that. But we will learn it. Because we have the mind of God. And it'll be revealed to us as time goes on. Now, so that's worthwhile living for. Just to learn it all. And, of course, after this age is about to end. And then we go into a time where the earth changes into paradise. So then we'll start gathering that knowledge. We'll get it from God. Us saints, we have the knowledge of God in us, and former prophets and Jesus. Well, we're all saints, basically. Okay, we're all be alike in paradise. And so as the knowledge gets revealed to us, we're going to teach it to everybody. Whether you want to listen, and you listen, because that will be added to our language. We'll start out with a basic language, and everything we learn from God will just build on that. So we're going to learn all these science things anyway, but we're going to learn it from God's point of view. And that's the best kind of, the best, because we'll know exactly how He built it. So anyway, He gets this light created. And the reason He had to do that was to put His plans into action. Now the light energy is needed to make atoms. Every atom has light energy in it. It's made from energy. Now science tries to make us believe that it's come in this big bang. In a sense it does. It does, because it took light to make these atoms, and they know that these atoms do create themselves out of this ball of light. So, they do have a lot of the knowledge, but they don't have it right from the start. And so they know that the atoms are made from light. Well, that's what happened. God made this light power and formed the atoms to go along with the plans that He made for everything. So now He planned out all the worlds, like the stars, the moons, the planets, the asteroids, black holes, if they exist. We don't. That's so far out there that they really don't know. That's a lot of guesswork there. But all these things God created from His plans with the light. Now the light and the plants go together. So the light is God. It can't function. Nothing can happen without the light. So light and God and the plans are who God is. That's God. And that's how we exist. So every atom has this light energy in it. That's God. That's God, the light energy. Now He's and then of course His thought. The thoughts aren't energy. They're not. They exist in the areas where there's no mass, because they don't have no mass. So that's God. Then there's the light energy part of them, and then there's the physical part, the atoms that are formed. So there's an energy field in every atom. But then there's also empty spaces within the atom. And God's in there. The thoughts. Those thoughts come through the atom into our bodies and to our brains. And our brains process these thoughts to make our bodies function. Everything moves according to God's plan. We blink. Okay? We talk, we see, we hear, we smell, we taste, we touch. All because of God's plans. Not because of our bodies. Our bodies every atom has to obey God. They're obedient to God because He's right there. And they're obeying His plans. Not each individual. But when it's all put together, those atoms are obeying God's plan for us, and they come with His thoughts via the light energy through our atoms and into our brains, and then our brains can break it all down. They make us see and make us do everything. It's just like a computer. A computer works almost the same exact way. Okay? You got the mainframe, the body, then you got and what's with the body? The brain, the processor. So the processor is a lot like the brain of us. And that's the thing. That's what takes the information and makes everything function. And then you have the program. The program is what God made. That's the image. That's the plan to make us function, along with the data. And that all goes into the hard drive. So the hard drive is our created part of us. That's our heart, mind, and soul. That's the part you don't see. We don't see that. That's invisible. That's within God. And it's always with God. Never leaves him because it's God's thoughts. So everything's there. You can't separate God and our thoughts. It's not possible. And that's heaven. So we're always in heaven. From the time we're created, we have to be, because you can't separate. You can't come out of there. It's just in His conscience. We're always there. This light energy forms our bodies and all the worlds and everything, so we can see and so we can experience our thoughts in God. Now that's quite an experience. Now so what if we're like puppets, or like a computer, and controlled by a programmer, for instance? Yeah, a programmer runs your computer, not anybody else. It doesn't run by itself. It's run by a programmer. And actually, it's run by God, because God gives them the thoughts. You think an architect builds the buildings? No, it's God. All the thoughts come from God. He planned everything. Everything, all the buildings, all the roads, cars, da-da-da. For this age, He planned it as a deception. So everything comes from God. So no architect, no doctor, no scientist, computer expert, they don't have the facilities. We don't have that we don't have the facility. We don't have the thoughts. We don't make thoughts. God makes all thoughts. Our brains processes the thoughts, and that's it. So He made some people architects, and then He put all this information into their thoughts, and then they get the desire to be an architect and to design things. God makes His people. People don't make their own people. It's never been like that. We think that because we didn't understand, and it wasn't in the Bible. It's in the Bible, but nobody can see it. Nobody can understand it. But God says in there many times that He does this, He does that. If you go in the Old Testament, you'll see it's God saying all these things. I create evil. I create good. I do these things. I'm the one. I'm the man. Okay? God creates, not man. And He never has been. So we're like these computers, and we're like puppets. Okay? God controls the puppets with thoughts, not strings, but with our thoughts. And it just doesn't seem possible, but it is. That's why we're all different. Otherwise, we just copy each other. We'd all end up being the same. We had to be. God planned everything so we're all pretty much got separate ideas. So we can help confuse each other. And it was all planned to live life like this, so He can work with His saints, prophets, and Jesus. They're the only ones that are going to come out of this lifestyle, this worldly life, and obey God. They were made for that. Okay? Their bodies were made for that. They were sinners to begin with, but they were made with the knowledge of God in them already from the start. They had the truth. So they were born with the truth. Now I'll get to that in a minute. So the truth is the knowledge of God. So they were born with that. So this knowledge within them is what reveals itself. So at some point in time, God's plan will be for that knowledge to be revealed to that person, that saint. We call them a child of God at that point. They're still a sinner, but they'll obey God. And then he starts making commands through this with his knowledge, with this light energy. And he gets us obedient. He changes our DNA so that we don't have this genetic dysfunction anymore. Now, all these different things: the pride, the lust, the jealousy, the greed, gluttony, envy. Now they're human, they're man-made terms, but they describe it pretty well. Over years and years and years, they even in the Bible there's talk about those things: pride, greed, and things like that. So it's not something I'm making up. Those traits have been in man all along. Now, not only those traits causes deception. Our looks, the way we look, and the way we look at each other, that's also deception in this age, because of the traits, the sin traits. Now, if you're greedy or jealous, you probably, you'll let's say you have a mate, you have a friend that you love very much, selfishly love, but and that person starts messing around with somebody else, you get jealous. Some people kill out of that jealousy. They get so angry that they can't control that person that they kill. So, and this goes on and on and on and on in this age. So this isn't just what man came up with. God planned everything before this ever existed. So he doesn't miss one thing. He doesn't miss one atom. Not one tiny atom, because he made it all. He planned it all first, and then he had it made. Now there's still bodies being born today. Today there's probably 1 million new babies. Okay, well they were planned probably trillions of years ago. God knows all about them. He knows everything about them. He knows all the ones that are going to get aborted today. Thank the Lord they don't have to live in this age. Their soul is just going to go right to paradise. They don't have to deal with this. Now, I had a stillborn brother that never got to see life. I had another brother that was only 13 years old. He got killed in a gun accident, and he didn't get to see much life. And another one that was 32. He was halfway through his life, and he gets killed. So, hey, that's just life, we say. Well, no, they get to live forever. They never died. It's just their flesh. They're going to change bodies. We can't experience any time outside our flesh. Okay, so when we're in God as thoughts, there is no time. So from one body to the next, it'll be just a snap of the fingers, blink of an eye, or like good night's sleep. You go to sleep in your flesh or in your death, your body just doesn't function anymore. Well, you go back, you're with God anyway, you're always with Him, but you just remain there, you don't experience time, and all of a sudden you wake up with a new body in paradise. Now that's an amazing plan. Now religious people will make you think that, oh, you're dead, or your soul's going to go and burn in hell forever. For what? What did they do any different than you did? Everybody's sinners. God looks at sin all the same. Everything's the same. The only ones that are different to Him are His saints, prophets, and Jesus. They're the only different people. Everybody else are sinners. Now what's different about sinners? Well, they were created differently. And that's where I told you a while ago that the sinners are created men. The other people, the other bodies, like mine and the saints and the prophets and stuff, we were formed for the light energy and all God's thoughts. We're all of God. Everything about us is God. In our created form. We're the light energy. We're the light. Because we all live by the light. But our bodies are made with, it's hard to explain. We get all God's knowledge through this light. We're not limited just to the thoughts He created you with. So men are created with enough thoughts just for them, just for him and his partner that he's going to be born with in paradise. Men were created both male and female in the invisible world, okay, in thought. So there's not two separate people. It's one in God. But in the flesh, in paradise, they'll be born with two bodies of the opposite sex, so they can mate and have children. Now they are different. You see, they're different than those of us who carry the knowledge of God. The light energy and God were the ones that created men. God created energy for Himself. Okay? And that is who's living through me, through the rest of the prophets and the saints and Jesus. We all had that. Now in body-wise, we're not any different than anybody else. But in energy-wise and God-wise, we're the ones who created you. So the God in me created you. And that's how it works. I still don't feel any more special in anybody because of that fact. It's just the way it is. God chose my body to use for His power. And when we speak, we're speaking for Him. So that's, and in a sense, in paradise, it's going to be the same way, because everybody's going to be made with the light, and when they speak, they'll be speaking the truth. So everybody will be speaking for God in the next age. But for this age, they don't, because it's confused with the sins of their body, in the genetic sins. God made our bodies with corrupted DNA to make sure that we don't understand Him, the truth, during this age. Only the saints and Jesus will understand Him. Now the prophets didn't understand Him either. But they became obedient to Him to where God could have them speak, and then perform miracles through. So after the fact, they could see the results of God. But they didn't know the future. They didn't know anything about the future. When they wrote the prophecies, they didn't understand what they were. They were totally confused because they were sinners. They couldn't see the truth. And when they were judged, God showed Moses how to judge. Moses didn't know how to judge. He didn't have the judge in him. It wasn't exposed in him. So God told him, this is what you do with these people. This is what you do with those people. Okay, you do that and you do this. So God was judging through Moses, but Moses couldn't do it on his own. Where it's different with us saints and Jesus, God is us. He's using our bodies to do everything He wants to do. He doesn't have to get us into obedience anymore. He already done that when He changed the DNA. So these bodies are God's bodies. If that makes any sense to you. That's why we can speak for Him. Every word I speak is from Him. No matter where I am, what I do, it's always for Him. It's always Him speaking. I'm just His mouth. I'm His eyes. I'm His nose. I'm His ears. I'm His body, and we function according to Him. We function according to His plans. Now, it still seems like we have this freedom, because of the way He made us all. Like in the next stage, we'll feel like we have this room, this freedom. But it's only because we don't have strings attached to us. We can't look at the strings and say, "Oh yeah, we got somebody hanging onto us." No, it's through our thoughts. So when we process the thoughts through our brain, we actually believe it's us. It's totally amazing how God has done this. And He brought the computer to us. Now man didn't do that. We think that man made these computers. No, that's God's thinking. And He made them just almost identical to how our humans, our bodies are made, and how He works with us. So I could sit and figure it out by thinking about the computer. So the computer was designed by God, and we just now it's here. And He wanted me to preach to the world. Well, what better way to preach to the world than through the internet? I talk to people from India, Asia, all over Canada, Great Britain, Norway, Russia. I've had talk to people from Iran. Oh, it's amazing. Jesus said that in the last days, the gospel will be preached to the world, and then the end will come. Well, I'm preaching to the world. The internet is the world now for us. And of course you got the news stations and stuff, but a news station isn't going to take me on and let me broadcast over air. No way. Not the stuff that I know. They'll never do that. In fact, it's funny how I can broadcast now through my little computer. I mean, how they let me. But and not only that, when God speaks through me, everybody in the universe, even the people sitting up in that space station, hears Him in their created state, not physically, but they hear me in their created existence within God. So every word I speak, the whole world is hearing me. Even the people that lived in the beginning. Now we don't hear that, of course. No, because we can't hear when we're in thoughts in God. But we do. So it's basically just the same. And this Matthew 24:14, where Jesus was talking about me preaching the gospel to everybody. Well, that's a prophecy that's being fulfilled right now. And the end will come soon after that. And why soon after that? Well, I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get killed for preaching the gospel to Christians. Now, it's going to be a Christian that kills me. It has to be. Because they're the only ones that have anything to protect. Okay? They're the ones that claim God. They're the ones that claim the Bible is for them. They're the ones that hijacked God's words. No, they really didn't do that, okay? The Roman government did that. They killed all the saints, and then they started Christianity. And they lied to the Christians, and now they believe everything that they started out with. So they're living one big lie. And that's what God wanted. He wanted deception. And the main reason He wanted Christianity is to get me the scriptures. So I could get a biblical vocabulary and preach to them so they could kill me. They really didn't need the Bible. But I needed the same vocabulary that they have. So when I preach to them, they get confused and angry. So when I'm sitting there saying the same things but totally different, because I know the truth and they don't. I've already had death threats. Okay, I've already had death threats. I've already been. Every day I come across people that are just, you can tell they want to wring my neck. And that's just because I have the truth. It's all prophesied to happen. Everything that's going on today, and about the end times and the destruction that's going to go on in paradise, has already been spoken about by the prophets, by the saints. All the saints knew these things. They wrote about it, but the Romans took them out. They removed everything. Anything that had to do with the future, with well, they even wanted to take out Revelation. But it's so heavily symbolized that they couldn't understand it anyway, so they just leave it in. Well, God did that. God's the one that left that revelation in. Was it important? It was important for a few things, yeah. For me. It wasn't important for anybody else. Was it important for the saints before? No, because they haven't lived the prophecies in there wasn't for them yet. Because the Christianity hadn't started yet. So the prophecies really aren't for everybody. They're only for the certain people that are going to live in that age. Like Jesus Christ, when He came, the prophecies about Him was only for Him. It wasn't for anybody. That's why the Pharisees didn't know who He was. Because those prophecies weren't for them to understand. It was only for Jesus. Specifically for Him. And then some of the prophecies that He said were specifically for me. That one about preaching the gospel in the last days, that was for me to understand. Nobody else could understand that. Nobody. It's impossible. Christians think, oh, that's talking about the last 1600 years that they've been preaching the gospel. It's just now that they're getting to the end of the world. No, they were preaching that false gospel to the end of the world 1500 years ago. Their world, their world wasn't as big. They've always been out on the end of the world with their false gospel because they're claiming all the land. Do you know how much land they stole? Do you know how much wealth they stole? And how many people they put into slavery because of that? Because of religion? Because they all claimed it was from God. They knew it wasn't from God. They knew it was from their greed. They're just using God. The first people, I think later on they became so religious they totally deny everything that happened in the beginning. They don't even want to. They talk about Constantine, but they protect him. They protect everything about the Christianity, especially the Roman Catholics. They have a lot to lose. The rest of them pretty much went by the Bible, but the other ones, they go way back to when the Romans made them. Created this false religion. Constantine was involved in all of that. He was the one that got the New Testament together. Well, anyway, all this stuff was planned by God. Whether you want to believe that or not. All evil was planned by God. So the worst things you can possibly think of that happened, Hitler killing all those Jews, that was planned by God. God's not concerned about bodies. Not at all. He's not He's only concerned about the flesh of the saints, of Jesus and the prophets while they were preaching the gospel. When our time was up, He let us get killed. Look at Jesus, he's 30-some years old? God let him get killed. Why didn't He save him and leave him preaching till he was 70 or 80? No! That wasn't in God's plans. His plans were for Jesus to die then. They had saints die in their 20s. Look at Isaiah. What was he, 21 years old? Jeremiah wasn't much older. And they got killed. If they were God's people, you would think he'd let them live to be 120 years old. So he doesn't care about the body. Not at all. He only cares, it was only his plans that are being fulfilled. Every day his plans are being fulfilled. Every moment. Through us. So that's important to God. Okay? That's why he planned it. Those plans are solid. They won't change. Never. God doesn't change. I've heard Christians say, oh yeah, God will change. We prayed, so he's going to change. Never. Never, never, never. He's always the same because of those plans. They're solid. All the prophecies that were spoken by the prophets 2,500 years ago and more, they all come exactly just the way he said it. That's how it's going to happen. It's because he knew the future. Because of his plans. And what does all this? What makes all this happen? Light energy. The light energy obeys God because they're together. And that's the power of God that's in me today, that was in Jesus and the saints. And it was in the prophets, but like I said, the prophets were sinners, so they didn't understand who they were in God. Okay, who am I in God? I am the light. I am the energy of God. I am of God. I speak for God. All that energy takes his knowledge and speaks it through me. Like he will through everybody in the next age. Okay. We'll be the first ones there. We'll have the knowledge of God. And then the rest of everybody else will be reborn, and then we're going to teach everything to them. So we'll be the teachers, we'll speak for God, and we'll fill up that language with God's knowledge. And that's how it works. That's what it's all about. Now we're not going to ever be married and have children, because we'll be working for God constantly. But the rest of you, created as men, you'll be born male and female in the bodies. Okay, your bodies will be male and female, but you'll be of one flesh. That means one man. You're one person, but you have two bodies. What does that mean? You're going to think alike. Your thoughts are going to come together, and you'll know each other. I mean, it's just going to be an awesome relationship. Can you imagine never arguing for eternity? You're going to know what each other wants all the time. You're just going to think together. There'll be nothing between you. No fears, it's just going to be a wonderful existence. Now God isn't going to let you have lust anymore. He's going to take all these sins away from us. So we won't have greed, we won't have lust, we won't have jealousy, and all those things. We're going to live in the nude because we're not going to work for another man. We won't have factories to make clothes. We won't have any business. So you're just going to have this mate that you're going to take care of. You're going to take care of each other. And it'll be just a wonderful relationship. And you'll want to see each other all the time. All the time. You'll never get bored with each other. And so I think I think that's going to be a wonderful existence. And with no lust. Well, see, God's going to control everything from then on. He's going to control everything. So when it's time for you to have children, He's going to give you the not lust, but it'll be a desire to mate, just like He does with animals in this age. If you look at animals and how free they are, in the trees and the woods and stuff. That's a lot like the existence of us in the next stage. Everything's going to be provided. Do the deer make their own food? No, it's provided for them. But they're not going to starve like they do in this age because of man. Man has created this, destroyed the woods and the trees and things like that. So sometimes they get limited on, and the weather. The weather's going to be perfect there. We're never going to see snow or cold. And that goes into another deal. In God's plans, the earth is going to change, okay? It's going to be a level earth next time. No mountains, no oceans, no polar caps. There are going to be plenty of cracks in the crust so that the heat will escape out of the magma this time. And that's why we're having this explosion coming up soon. Because the flood plugged up everything, all the cracks, original cracks in the earth, and made it so the heat pressure build up in there. Now science doesn't know about this, but it's ready to blow. There's so much pressure in there. They're wondering why there's holes in these electromagnetic fields. There's wondering why the holes in it. That's because of the heat in the earth that it can't escape. It's creating something in there that it's getting to be almost it's like a bomb. Very explosive. If you've seen a pressure cooker, have you ever seen a pressure cooker that the valve didn't get shut off or it broke? Okay, now we had one. We had a faulty one, and the pressure valve wasn't working right. It got plugged. By the time I turned that oven off, the thing was shaking so bad it was coming off the oven or the grill. It was shaking. The whole pot was shaking. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to get to the point where it's going to just start shaking so bad it'll shake the whole earth. And it's going to be violent shaking. This will knock down almost everything that man made. And it'll kill most people. And then, of course, it'll start exploding out of the earth. And it's going to engulf the whole earth with hot lava that'll melt the crust, remelt it, and then that's what's going to level off the earth. So in the next stage, it's all going to be like the original earth. There'll never be a flood again, because God's word made the other flood, or made the flood happen with all the ice crystals above the earth. This time, we're going to have the ice crystals again. And when all the water melts off the earth, or vaporizes off the earth during this lava thing, then it's going to rain back down when it cools enough, but there will be a frozen layer of ice crystals out there that can't come down. So when this rain comes down, it's going to start cooling off the earth rapidly, so then the rest of it can't rain down anymore. So it's going to stay out there as ice crystals. Not as ice, not as a solid chunk of ice, but crystals. And it could be a few thousand feet thick. Well, that's going to be enough to block the sun rays, the ultraviolet rays that injures our skin and makes us old looking in a hurry. If you work outside all day, by the time you're 40, your skin is wasted. So without UV rays coming into our atmosphere, our skin will stay perfect forever. And then it'll be like a light bulb. It'll take the sun and light up everything. So we won't have day and night. You'll probably get a little dimmer, for a little part of the time, but it won't be. It's not going to be like it is now. So those are the things that are going to happen, and then the changes we're going to have. It's all God's plans, and He knows. He's planned every day for the rest of eternity. So we'll never, and in His plans in the next stage, we're never going to die. Why is that? Well, He's going to prevent accidents. In this age, He made accidents happen. All the people that died in accidents, because He planned it. Not because they had an accident, because God planned it that way. Yeah, it's just incredible. So in the next age, there won't be any planned deaths. Okay, nobody's going to drown. We'll go swimming, but we're never going to drown. Because God didn't plan for us to drown. And that's how it is. God controls every tiny detail about us and about the way we live. He always has been in control. So we have nothing to worry about. His plans, His thoughts are who we are. And the light energy is what gives us a body. So we're all in Him. We're all in His light. And we're going to have a wonderful existence forever and ever. Anyway, I'll stop here. I hope you learned a few things from this. And we'll try something else later. Thank you. Bye.